The year 2030. I mean, it feels like this distant futuristic milestone, doesn't it? Something you read about. But here we are. It's just, what, half a decade away now? And that really begs a crucial question for all of us. What does this looming deadline mean for how, where, and maybe most importantly, why we work? Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really unpacking the future of work by the end of this decade. And, recent statistics paint this intriguing, almost startling picture. The World Economic Forum, for example, they estimate 50% of all employees will need reskilling by next year, 2025, because of accelerating tech. And get this, the International Labor Organization projects that by 2030, a staggering 85% of jobs that will exist, well, they haven't even been invented yet, even though the global labor force is projected to hit like 3.5 billion people. So our mission today is to explore these huge, unprecedented changes, from deep AI integration to totally new working models, and really trying to understand what's driving this transformation, but also critically what we can do to maybe shape it a bit.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating about the source material for this deep dive is kind of its dual nature. On one hand, you have sources that just dive headfirst into the transformative potential of technology, painting these vivid, almost visionary pictures of what could be possible. They show us how these rapid advancements could reshape, pretty much every aspect of our professional lives. But then other sources offer this really vital counterbalance. They kind of encourage us to question our assumptions, reminding us that the future isn't just this inevitable march of tech. Ultimately, it's about human agency. It's about the profound choices we make. And it's how these two perspectives intertwine the incredible possibilities and our capacity to shape them that I think gives us a truly richer, more nuanced understanding of what's coming.
Absolutely. So we're not just looking at a list of new gadgets or apps. It's a complete landscape shift we're diving into, a world of major advances. Some we're already seeing in early forms, right? Others are still pretty bleeding edge, but clearly gaining momentum.
Exactly. And we'll try to group these trends thematically for you, make them a bit easier to digest. We'll move from, how data is transforming our daily tasks to how AI is literally becoming our coworker, and even get a glimpse into the sort of underlying infrastructure shifts that make all this possible.
Okay, sounds good. So let's start with what our sources call the data-driven and digitally optimized workplace. The idea of the quantified workplace. It immediately makes me think of that old Peter Drucker saying, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. How's that really coming to life by 2030? Is it just more dashboards?
Oh, it's moving far beyond simple dashboards for sure. Think a really granular OKR tracking, objective, and key results, like Google's famous for, or even the creation of these digital twins of entire work processes. Siemens is doing this in healthcare, for instance. They basically optimize operations in a virtual world before they apply changes in the real one. And yeah, tools like Microsoft Workplace Analytics, ActiveTrack, they're already making work more measurable. But the deeper insight here, I think, is the potential for this new kind of transparency, which, while it's aimed at improvement, it also raises some pretty serious questions about employee privacy and autonomy.
Yeah.
When everything is measurable, well, what isn't?
That's a really great point. And if we're measuring everything, how does that data then feed into how we coordinate and collaborate? Because it sounds like these collaborative tools are becoming more than just chat apps. They're like the operating systems for companies.
That's precisely it. That's what our sources point to as work coordination-led organizations. Platforms like Smartsheet, Asana, they're becoming crucial. They enhance visibility, accountability, really drive outcomes. But in future, we'll see AI and machine learning not just helping us track things, but providing predictive analytics, maybe even more immersive interfaces. Imagine AI suggesting the best team for a project based on past data, or automatically flagging potential bottlenecks before they happen. It moves beyond just managing tasks to actively orchestrating the work itself.
Okay, but as we layer on more and more tech, the danger of getting totally overwhelmed seems very real. How do companies avoid that? How do they make sure all this tech actually helps people and doesn't just add noise?
That's where this idea of simplicity maximization comes in. And it's critical. It's the counterbalance to all that complexity. Our sources note it's actually evolving into a formal discipline within organizations. It's about more than just making interfaces user-friendly. It's a strategic imperative. You have to ensure technology enables rather than hinders productivity and focus. And the surprising insight here is that achieving true simplicity often requires immense effort and really sophisticated design thinking. It's not about the absence of tech, but the really intelligent, almost invisible integration of it, making the complex feel effortless.
Right, making it seamless. And building on that, what about this idea of an all-knowing organization, the omniscient organization? That sounds incredibly powerful, but maybe also a little unsettling. What does that actually look like?
Yeah, it's a potent concept. It means vast amounts of corporate data plus external data,
Yeah.
all being assimilated into large language models, LLMs. Think of these as these super advanced AI brains that can understand, summarize, generate human-like text from just enormous data sets. This enables really unprecedented access to knowledge for workers. You can ask complex questions, get contextually relevant insights, and it could effectively flatten traditional hierarchies because information isn't hoarded at the top. Platforms like Senequa, Practicus AI, they're already showing us glimpses of this. But the ethical tightrope here is very real. You have to balance that incredible knowledge access with individual privacy, the potential for misuse. It's about, knowing everything organizationally without being everywhere in a creepy surveillance sense.
Yeah, that tension between innovation and the ethical side, it definitely feels like a recurring theme here. Okay, let's move on to our next big theme, the evolving worker and workplace. This first trend, the anywhere worker and seamless hybrid work. I mean, it was certainly kicked into high gear by recent global events, right? But how is it deepening by 2030?
Yeah, it's moving way beyond just, working from home a couple of days a week. Propelled by the pandemic, sure, but this model you see companies like GitLab that are fully remote, United Health Group extensively remote, it's deepening into a truly location-agnostic approach. Technology like Zoom, Slack, Viva Engage, that's key infrastructure. But future advancements will include much more sophisticated AR/VR for virtual interactions, maybe feeling like you're really in the room together, and AI for dynamic scheduling that optimizes for both collaboration needs and individual focus time or well-being. Deloitte, for example, gets highlighted for its hybrid inclusive approach. They're investing heavily in both the digital infrastructure and the culture needed to support flexibility. The deeper insight, I think, is that it's not just about where you physically are, but about creating a sense of connection, belonging, and productivity regardless of location.
And what about this idea of designing your own career? Like project by project, almost like building something custom. We see more gig work now, but is this different?
It's taking that concept of designer careers in the gig economy to a new level, especially for white-collar roles. Think IT, consulting, creative fields. It's growing rapidly. And it's driven not just by companies wanting flexibility, but by workers desiring it too. Building diverse portfolios, learning different skills, platforms like TopDoll, Upwork Enterprise, they connect these skilled freelancers with high-value projects. But it absolutely raises big questions about traditional job security, benefits like health insurance or retirement plans, and what it means to build a long-term career without that single, stable employer. It's a trade-off, for sure, but one that more and more skilled workers seem willing to make for that autonomy.
Okay, now as we talk about blending work and life, there was one concept in our sources that sounded really visionary, maybe slightly unsettling too. Work-life podcoons. Can you paint a picture for us? What are these digitally enabled spaces? Why would companies invest in them?
Huh? Yeah, Coons. They're a fascinating, maybe slightly speculative development. Imagine these digitally enabled spaces, maybe residential complexes or dedicated hubs that seamlessly integrate work and life. They're equipped with advanced tech, collaborative spaces, but also amenities for relaxation, fitness, maybe even childcare, all right there. Our sources describe them as offering a kind of sanctuary that supports productivity, creativity, and relaxation, appealing strongly to, perhaps, younger generations valuing a nurturing employer. But here's the paradox, right? While designed for total fulfillment, could they inadvertently blur work-life boundaries to an unprecedented degree? Is total integration truly a sanctuary, or does it risk becoming a sort of gilded cage that fosters a new kind of always-on expectation? It really asks us to consider what true sanctuary and separation mean in an increasingly connected world.
Wow, okay. And taking that immersion even further, moving beyond screens entirely into these immersive 3D workspaces. We're talking about the holographic workplace and spatial computing as the primary user interface. This sounds like pure sci-fi.
It's definitely pushing the boundaries, yeah. The holographic workplace essentially envisions a virtual 3D holodeck for work. This will leverage advanced holographic tech, augmented reality. Apple Vision Pro is expected to be a pivotal moment in maybe bringing this closer to the mainstream. Imagine global teams conducting meetings within these shared virtual spaces, manipulating complex 3D data models together in real time. Our source even mentions 4D spatial environments, which is intriguing. It implies maybe not just manipulating objects in 3D space, but incorporating elements like time, context, maybe even simulated sensory data as a fourth dimension for richer interaction. It's about moving from interacting with technology, like clicking a mouse, to interacting through it. The environment itself becomes the interface.
And on that note, environments becoming interfaces. There was another one, zero device UX, where your entire surroundings become the screen. How does that connect?
It's kind of the ultimate evolution of that immersive experience idea. Moving beyond even personal devices like headsets. Think holographic and volumetric projectors, turning entire rooms into dynamic, interactive digital environments. Imagine simulating anything, a meeting space on Mars for engineers, a hyper-realistic factory floor for training, a complex biological model for scientists, all tracked and responsive to your movements and gestures. The really profound insight here, potentially, is that the barrier between us and digital information just dissolves. It could fundamentally change how we perceive and interact with our digital tools, making them feel almost like extensions of our own minds or the environment itself.
Okay, let's pivot to our third major theme, and this one's huge. AI and automation redefining human roles. We all have voice assistants on our phones, Siri, Alexa, but are they really going to be that integrated into our professional lives? Seriously? Oh, absolutely. And much more deeply than maybe we expect right now. Voice assistants at work are evolving way beyond just setting timers or checking the weather. They'll manage complex schedules, transcribe meetings with near-perfect accuracy, provide real-time translation during calls, and they'll integrate deeply with all our workplace tools. The future promises generative AI connected to private, secure, large language models. This means highly tailored, context-aware responses. IBM Watson X Assistant is already showing the potential here. The shift is from giving simple commands to having proactive, intelligent assistance that actually anticipates your needs, freeing up significant mental bandwidth for more complex stuff.
So it's like having a personalized AI coach for your work life. Tell me more about the productivity coach concept. Exactly. Generative AI will analyze your individual work patterns, your performance data, how you spend your time, where you get bogged down, and it will give you customized recommendations for enhancing productivity. Maybe try batching these tasks, or you seem most focused between 9 and 11 a.m. It could even identify skill gaps based on your work and suggest specific learning paths or resources. There are already tools like Poised, offering live coaching for communication skills during video calls. That's a glimpse of where this is headed. The insight here is that productivity becomes less about just working harder and more about highly optimized, personalized efficiency, like having a personal trainer, but for your work habits.
And building on that, like your own virtual assistant handling all the annoying routine tasks, making work life smoother, that's the AI work concierge.
Precisely. These AI agents will handle the vast majority of administrative tasks, scheduling, expense reporting, information retrieval, summarizing emails or documents. This frees up humans for the more complex, creative, strategic, and relationship-focused work. They'll offer just-in-time assistance, popping up with the info you need right when you need it, and even proactively identifying needs before you ask. Companies like IBM, Google, others are already pioneering these solutions. AI concierges could become indispensable virtual coworkers pretty quickly. This really shifts the human role from task execution to higher-order thinking, problem-solving, innovation.
Okay, this next one. This sounds like something straight out of a movie. The fully automated workforce and humanoid worker robots. Is this really happening?
It's moving that way, especially for tasks that are rote, repetitive, or physically demanding or dangerous. These will increasingly be handled by sophisticated AI systems and humanoid robots, like Tesla's Optimus or others in development. This could lead to what some call an unlimited economy by vastly expanding our physical labor capacity, making goods and services potentially much cheaper and more abundant. Human workers then pivot more towards strategy, governance, creativity, complex problem-solving, ethical oversight, the inherently human tasks AI can't easily replicate. But, and this is a huge but, this shift raises massive short-term challenges around job displacement and the monumental task of reskilling a global workforce for these new roles. It's a huge societal challenge.
That's a big one to grapple with, definitely. And speaking of human roles, will bots actually be managing us? What about management by AI?
Well, AI's capabilities in data analysis and decision-making will indeed revolutionize aspects of management. This could range from optimizing resource allocation across teams to predicting market trends with high accuracy, even identifying team-level issues like potential burnout or conflict based on communication patterns, maybe. These systems can analyze data 24/7, provide real-time insights, and in some scenarios, even implement solutions autonomously. Especially, as one source puts it, when we don't want to be in charge maybe for highly complex, data-intensive decisions where human bias is a problem. The critical question here, though, is how we balance the efficiency and data-driven objectivity of AI with the need for human empathy, intuition, mentorship, and leadership that understands individual motivation and context. It's a tricky balance.
It really is. And then taking it even further, beyond just tools or managers, the idea of AI as true collaborators, even friends, AI colleagues, that's a profound thought.
It truly is. Advances in natural language processing, emotional intelligence simulation. It means AI could potentially participate in brainstorming sessions, contribute to strategic planning, maybe even join informal social interactions in a meaningful way, becoming part of the fabric of your team. Some AI entities might even achieve global recognition for their distinct personality, skills, or creative output. This really challenges traditional perceptions of creativity, intellect, and even consciousness. It forces us to reconsider what collaboration means when one of the collaborators is artificial, and how we define intelligence and maybe even identity in this future workplace.
Wow. Okay, this last one in this theme feels straight out of a very, very distant future. Telepathic teams.
Yeah, this one is definitely on the further horizon, but the groundwork is being laid. Mind-machine interfaces, MMIs, like Neuralink and others, are racing towards becoming practical. These are technologies allowing direct communication between a brain and an external device. This holds the promise, or perhaps the peril, of telepathic teams, where ideas could potentially spark directly between minds, bypassing verbal or written communication. Imagine architects collaboratively designing a building in a shared mental space, or engineers troubleshooting a complex system through intuitive neural signal exchange. It promises this quantum leap in human connection, collaboration, speed, and efficiency. But obviously, it comes with immense ethical challenges regarding privacy, data security, cognitive freedom, and even the very definition of individual thought. It's a powerful but ethically fraught frontier.
That's a lot to process. Okay, moving to our fourth theme, learning, wellness, and social responsibility. With all these rapid changes we've been talking about, how does learning keep up? How is it integrated into the workday?
That's the core idea behind immersive e-learning and ambient education. Traditional e-learning is transforming, moving from passively watching videos to more experiential learning. Think AR training, like Boeing uses for aircraft mechanics, showing overlays on real equipment, or bite-sized microlearning delivered just in time. But ambient education takes it a step further. It integrates learning directly into work process itself. This means getting real-time, on-the-job training and guidance via digital adoption platforms, tools like WalkMe or SpecKit that provide pop-up help or walkthroughs within your software. The insight here is that learning becomes continuous, contextual, almost invisible. Not a separate activity you schedule, but something that happens constantly, ensuring skills stay relevant in a rapidly changing environment.
And speaking of integration, your employer literally caring about your well-being, tracking it even, wellness tracking and happiness management. How does this work without feeling, well, intrusive?
Yeah, it's a delicate balance. Wellness tracking, using wearables like Fitbit, Apple Watch that's already expanding into corporate wellness programs. Companies like Emory University, Google, they offer incentives for participation, tracking steps, activity levels, maybe even sleep. And then you have digital sentiment analysis tools. Qualtrics is an example used by SAP using AI to gauge employee sentiment from surveys, maybe even anonymized communication data. The idea is to identify trends in morale, spot potential burnout early, and lead to proactive interventions or support. The potential positive impact is significant, identifying stress, offering tailored support. But it's a very fine line. The key is ensuring it genuinely fosters well-being and trust and isn't perceived as surveillance or pressure. It really raises the question, can or should happiness be managed by an organization?
Right. And on that very note, we also hear about emo surveillance, which honestly sounds a bit Big Brother-ish, but our sources hint there might be a positive spin.
It definitely sounds alarming at first blush, and the privacy concerns are absolutely valid and need careful consideration. But the source highlights its potential for positive impact if implemented ethically. For example, identifying aggregate stress or burnout patterns across teams to proactively offer tailored support or resources, or using anonymized emotional data to inform empathetic design solutions for workspaces, maybe adjusting lighting or noise levels based on collective mood. The stated aim is to cultivate a workforce that feels seen, heard, and understood. Envisioning AI perhaps offering confidential emotional support resources when it detects stress signals. The discussion presented isn't necessarily about whether it will exist, but how we choose to implement it. Is it a tool for empathy and support, or for control? It really puts the onus back on human decision-making and strong ethical guardrails.
That's a crucial distinction, yeah. And how is business success itself being redefined? Is corporate social responsibility really becoming a primary objective, not just a nice to have?
Absolutely. We're seeing a definite shift towards CSR as a primary objective, which is fueling the expansion of the green-collar workforce. More, let's say, enlightened organizations are placing corporate social responsibility right at the forefront. They recognize its direct link to long-term sustainability, brand reputation, and, crucially, attracting top talent. This resonates deeply with younger generations, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, who are actively drawn to mission-oriented organizations that are tackling global challenges like climate change or social inequality. And the green-collar workforce itself roles focused on environmental sustainability, renewable energy, circular economy practices, exemplified by companies like Siemens. Schneider Electric is expanding rapidly. They're driving sustainability initiatives, sure, but also creating entirely new business models, like finding value in waste streams. The core insight is that profit and purpose are increasingly seen as intertwined, not mutually exclusive. In fact, for many, purpose is becoming a key driver of long-term profit and resilience.
Okay, our final theme covers the underlying infrastructure and systems shifts. This sounds foundational. Starting with the shift from centralized to decentralized power, networks of excellence and DevOps for business, or BizDevOps. What does that mean for how a company is structured?
Right, so traditional centers of excellence, these centralized hubs of expertise, are evolving into more distributed networks of excellence. They focus on enabling large-scale, decentralized change, leveraging participation from across the organization. Think about how IKEA or General Electric try to spread innovation practices. And, maybe even more impactful, DevOps principles, the agile, iterative, test-and-learn approach from software development, are expanding beyond IT. That's the BizDevOps idea. Applying that mindset to all business functions, marketing campaigns, HR processes, supply chain adjustments, everything becomes more experimental, data-driven, and faster. The insight is a fundamental shift towards making the entire organization more responsive, integrated, and able to adapt to rapid market changes. Almost like a living, evolving system rather than a rigid hierarchy.
And in an age of, digital uncertainty, deep fakes, cyber threats, how does trust become currency? We're talking the trust economy and frictionless biosecurity.
Yeah, building and maintaining trust in the digital realm is paramount. This paradigm relies on a few key technologies. Blockchain for transparent, immutable records of transactions or identity. Alternative digital currencies for perhaps more seamless global payments. Digital signatures for verifying authenticity. But it also includes increasingly sophisticated biometric security, moving beyond fingerprints to things like eye scans, maybe even brainwave patterns or real-time DNA recognition in high-security contexts, and of course robust end-to-end encryption for communications and data. The aim is to create an inherently secure and reliable digital environment, reducing friction in everything from logging in to making major financial transactions. The critical trade-off here again is that balance between convenience and security versus individual freedom, privacy, and the potential for pervasive tracking if not managed carefully.
And how are global disruptions, like we saw with supply chains recently, sparking a more localized, maybe even personal approach to making things?
That's the core idea behind the hyperlocal, on-demand maker economy. It's driven largely by huge advancements in 3D printing and additive manufacturing. This enables a shift away from centralized mass manufacturing towards more localized on-demand production. Think about a factory needing a replacement part. Instead of ordering it and waiting, they just print it on site. Or hospitals producing customized surgical guides or even medical implants tailored to a specific patient. It enhances efficiency massively, allows for unprecedented customization, and contributes to a more resilient and sustainable global economy by reducing transportation needs and potentially waste. It really puts the power of creation much closer to the point of need.
And what about this idea that basically every employee becomes an app developer? Everyone is citizen developer. That sounds empowering, but maybe chaotic.
It's definitely a significant democratization of digital transformation. We've seen the evolution from complex coding to low-code platforms like Appian, where you drag and drop elements, to now increasingly intuitive no-code environments. And AI is accelerating this, allowing people to describe the app they need in plain language, and the AI generates the code. This empowers non-IT staff people in marketing, finance, operations to create tailored digital solutions for their specific problems really quickly. Siemens is cited as an example, fostering this kind of innovation and agility across its workforce, allowing anyone, not just dedicated coders, to build the digital tools they need to do their jobs better. The insight is that problem-solving becomes distributed. Innovation can spring from literally every corner of an organization, not just a central IT department.
So bringing it all together for the employee, one central hub for your entire work life, a universal work portal, plus perfect onboarding. That sounds like a dream for new hires especially.
Yeah, moving beyond the clunky old intranets, these integrated portals aim to centralize all work-related activities, from filing your hours and requesting leave to collaborating on projects, accessing knowledge, coordinating tasks. Everything in one place, and likely with an AI-assisted layer providing personalized recommendations, nudges, surfacing relevant information proactively. Perfect onboarding, using platforms like Onboard by HR Cloud or Clickboarding, leverages AI to guide new hires through a really smooth, easy, maybe even exciting integration process. You might have VR tours of facilities, AI mentors answering common questions, personalized learning paths set up automatically. The underlying goal here is really to maximize employee productivity, engagement, and retention right from day one, reducing that friction and confusion often associated with starting a new role.
Okay, getting into some really advanced stuff now. Computing power beyond imagination, shaping entire organizations. Quantum supercharged organizations. What does quantum computing actually unlock for businesses?
Quantum computing operates on fundamentally different principles than classical computers, allowing it to tackle certain types of problems that are currently intractable. Think about optimizing incredibly complex systems like global logistics for a supply chain with billions of items, finding the absolute optimal routes in real time. Or discovering new drug compounds by simulating molecular interactions with unprecedented accuracy, or developing novel materials with specific properties. Financial modeling for incredibly complex risk analysis. Early adopters in fields like pharma, materials science, finance, AI development. They stand to gain a truly formidable competitive edge. The insight isn't just about doing things faster, it's about fundamentally redefining what kind of problems businesses can even conceive of tackling. It could create entirely new competitive frontiers in industries we can barely imagine now.
And beyond just flexible hours or location, a completely adaptable organization, that's radical flexibility. What does that entail?
This is more of a holistic organizational strategy. It enables organizations to swiftly adapt to changing market conditions, disruptions, new opportunities. It's about reimagining work processes, organizational structures, even entire business models on the fly. And it's heavily facilitated by those low-code code platforms and AI tools we talked about. They allow for rapid development and deployment of new solutions, new workflows, new ways of working. The core idea is that adaptability itself becomes the ultimate competitive advantage in a volatile world, allowing organizations not just to react quickly, but to proactively shape new trends and markets.
And this one is truly fascinating, maybe the culmination of many of these trends.
Yeah.
Businesses basically running themselves, autonomous organizations.
Yeah, this is where hyperautomation, the combination of AI, robotics, and process automation, potentially leads. Organizations predominantly operated by sophisticated code and AI, minimizing the need for direct human intervention in day-to-day operations. You could have these based on proven templates for marketing, sales, operations, allowing ideas to rapidly materialize into fully functional businesses. Think about decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs, in the crypto space, but potentially applied much more broadly. Humans then transition mainly to roles involving oversight, strategic direction, ethical guidance, complex exceptions, and high-level creativity. The profound implication is a potential new era of entrepreneurial velocity, where ideas can become operational businesses with unprecedented speed and efficiency, really challenging traditional corporate structures and timelines.
Wow, okay, that is a lot of incredible technological change to wrap your head around. We've heard about AI practically everywhere, immersive experiences blurring digital and physical, entirely new ways of organizing work, but our sources also give us a pretty strong warning about the limits of just predicting the future based on tech trends.
Exactly. And this raises a really important question. If the technological advancements seem so clear, so powerful, why is our intuition about the future so often? Yeah. Well, wrong.
Yeah, why do our forecasts miss the mark so spectacularly sometimes?
Well, history is littered with examples, right? Think of John Maynard Keynes back in the 1930s, a brilliant economist, predicting we'd all be working a 15-hour week by now thanks to automation freeing up our time. Clearly didn't happen for most. Or those mid-20th century predictions that automating homes, washing machines, vacuums would dramatically reduce housework. But surprisingly, studies show it often led to more work, partly because our standards of cleanliness just went way up. Even entire professions like radiologists or travel agents were confidently predicted to become redundant due to technology decades ago. And while they've definitely transformed, they're still very much here. The tech changed the how. not necessarily the if.
So it's really not just about getting the technology right, is it? There's something else going on.
Exactly. Our prediction models, our forecasts, they're often limited because they struggle to account for inherently human factors. Our desires, our ingenuity, our adaptability, and critically, our choices. Technology creates new possibilities, opens new doors, but we individuals, organizations, societies determine which doors we walk through and how we integrate these possibilities into our lives. Take workplace monitoring tech, for example. It could absolutely lead to a dystopia of constant surveillance. But our sources emphasize that it's a choice of how we integrate it. Will it be used primarily for support and understanding, or for control and micromanagement? That's not dictated by the tech itself, it's a human decision. The future isn't just a set of technological inevitabilities rolling towards us, it's a landscape shaped by countless human decisions.
That's a really powerful distinction to make. So, given that, are these changes we've been discussing, AI, automation, remote work, are they truly revolutionary, or are they maybe just the next logical step in an ongoing evolution of work?
Well, some of our sources argue that many of these trends we've discussed, technological integration, remote work flexibility, the rise of the gig economy, the need for lifelong learning, focuses on DEI, sustainable practices. These things have actually been evolving for decades. This isn't entirely new territory out of the blue. The foundational elements, the underlying shifts, have been underway for a long time.
Okay, so if the elements themselves have been evolving for a while, what is different this time around? What makes 2030 feel like such a potential inflection point?
It seems to be the unique interplay of all these factors accelerating at once, combined with something perhaps less tangible, a profound shift in the human mindset. One source makes an interesting comparison to the Enlightenment period, a time emphasizing reason, individualism, a healthy skepticism towards traditional authority and ways of doing things. This shift in how we think, how we behave, our evolving values about what work means and what we expect from it, that's presented as the true catalyst. It's pushing us to redefine work in ways that go beyond just adopting the latest technology. It's not just new tools, it's fundamentally new ways of thinking about ourselves, our careers, and our place in the world.
That really reframes things, doesn't it? So, given this new human mindset, this different way of thinking, how should we approach thinking about work to better understand its future, beyond just job titles and office locations?
Well, one interesting framework our sources suggest is shifting from thinking just about where workers are located to considering where the work exists. Is the work fundamentally physical, tied to a place, or is it digital? Because if the work is primarily digital, then place becomes a free variable, something you can choose. And think about remote collaboration. Early on, many felt it was less creative, less effective than being in person. But as the technology and, importantly, our practices and mindsets have improved, some studies now show digital collaboration can be more effective for certain types of tasks. This demonstrates that it's often our imagination and willingness to adapt that determine how we access these new opportunities, not just the raw capability of the technology itself. It's about being unbound by old assumptions.
Right. And how does AI fit into this new framework? Is it just about automating tasks we already do, or is it fundamentally altering how we actually perform work?
It seems more productive, according to our sources, to frame AI as automating behaviors rather than just discrete tasks. For example, a large language model doesn't recall memory like a human. It creates an output that mimics recall in response to a prompt. It's performing a behavior. This emphasizes the nuance needed in human-machine collaboration. We need to consider agency who or what actually does the work and authority who or what has the final decision rights or oversight. The examples given are really thought-provoking. AI acting as a supervisor, making scheduling decisions, or a prioritizer sorting your inbox, or a personal coach giving feedback, or a muse suggesting creative ideas, or even a doppelganger handling routine communications, or like a triage nurse assessing incoming requests. The shift is from thinking of AI as just a tool we wield to potentially a partner involved in complex behaviors.
So this challenges that traditional idea of creativity being just an individual trait someone has.
Exactly. Research highlighted suggests creativity isn't just something you have. It's often a generative process that emerges from interaction, collaboration, and the environment within the workplace. It's something we do together. This perspective, along with valuing non-skill attributes like situational awareness, the example given was Toyota reintroducing human workers into highly automated lines, not because they were faster, but because they understood the context and could foresee problems AI missed, improving long-term productivity. This unlocks new possibilities. It moves beyond just worrying about skill displacement by AI and focuses on leveraging unique human capabilities, judgment, context, empathy, complex collaboration that AI currently can't replicate well.
Okay, so if predictions are so hard to get right and our choices are so critical in shaping what actually happens, what can we do? How can we prepare for this future right now without a perfect crystal ball?
Yeah, the good news is we don't need to predict the future with perfect accuracy to engage with it productively. Because the future is shaped by human decisions, we should focus our energy on making better, more informed, more intentional choices now. The historical example of factory electrification is really key here. The initial benefits were modest, just replacing steam engines with electric motors, saving a bit on energy costs. But the huge productivity leaps came decades later, maybe 30 years later, when engineers stopped just swapping motors and completely reorganized the factory floor around the possibilities of electric power, optimizing workflows, enabling assembly lines. It demonstrates the power of fundamentally rethinking our approach, redesigning our systems, not just plugging in new technology into old ways of working. It takes time, reflection, experimentation, and proactive design.
So we need to be much more deliberate, more experimental in our actions.
Absolutely. The advice is to foster optionality. Instead of making one big, potentially wrong, bet on what the future holds, make lots of smaller bets, experiment, pilot new approaches, learn quickly, adapt, create options for yourself and your organization. And critically, we need to be deliberate and conscious about how we choose to reap the productivity dividends that technology offers. A 4-day work week, for instance, driven by AI productivity gains, that's been technologically feasible for a while, arguably. But making it a reality requires a societal decision to pursue it, to collectively decide that human well-being, or a different kind of productivity focused on outcomes not hours, are priorities worth optimizing for. Ultimately, it's us as individuals, as leaders, as societies, who decide where we are going. Technology provides the tools and possibilities, but the direction is set by human values and choices. The future of work is fundamentally a human artifact built by our collective decisions.
So, as you can hopefully see, the future of work in 2030 isn't just some distant, abstract technological forecast. It's this vibrant, complex, sometimes messy tapestry being woven right now with threads of incredible innovation, but also profound human choices.
Yeah, the year 2030 isn't just an inevitability sliding towards us. It's really an invitation. It's an opportunity to redefine ourselves, our organizations, and maybe even our world. Embracing that dynamic interplay between technological advancement and our evolving human values. The future of work, hopefully, won't just be about efficiency or automation, but maybe a testament to our audacity to dream and our agency to actually build something better.
And perhaps the most provocative thought for you, our listener, to carry forward is this. What unseen decisions are you making today, right now, in your own work, your own life, that will subtly but surely shape your reality by 2030? How can you foster that sense of optionality, that deliberate mindset to help create a future of work that serves not just productivity metrics, but also genuine purpose, fulfillment, and truly human flourishing?